Every once in a while on this channel, I will break down a high-profile case for you guys. I will go deeper than the mainstream media, look into the interesting evidence, the relevant documents. Sometimes I will examine certain factors of law to see if there's nuance in the law, what will be charged, and what will be the outcome of a case. And other times I'll go into the forensic reports because a lot of times the witness statements that are being reported by the media are actually directly contradicted by the scientific data. However, this is not one of those cases. The Daunte Wright shooting is one of the most straight-up events that has ever gotten national media attention, and it's ridiculous that people are trying to add so much extra ambiguity to the situation when they release the body cam footage the next day, and we all clearly understand what happened. For those of you who are unaware, Kimberly Potter, who was a 26-year veteran of the Brooklyn, Minnesota Police Department, I forgot what they were called, who really cares, shot Daunte Wright by accident when she thought she was deploying her taser. This is not up for dispute. If you look at the body cam footage that was released same day, you can hear her call out that she's going to tase Daunte Wright. Then she yells, "Taser, taser, taser." Which is protocol when there are other officers around to get them to clear the area so you can safely deploy the taser. However, in the heat of the moment, after Daunte had broken free from her fellow officer, she drew her gun instead of her taser. Now, a bunch of people on the internet who are just smart enough to be incredibly stupid are trying to overcomplicate this situation. I'm sure you've seen a lot of depictions of a taser versus a handgun, of the size, the weight, etc., and this is all ridiculous because I personally, when I make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, sometimes return the peanut butter to the refrigerator, and sometimes I put the jelly in the cabinet. Sometimes when I make cereal, I leave the milk out where the cereal is, and I put the cereal box back in the refrigerator. And this is all done without the stress of being in a situation where somebody who has a felony warrant just escaped from an officer and is jumping into a car and driving away. So the idea that you can make this technical point that you, in an absolute calm state, would be able to tell the difference between a taser and a gun, therefore this officer should be able to tell the difference between a taser and a gun in a split second, is absolutely ridiculous. And again, it puts you in the category of people just smart enough to be stupid. The idea that this woman, for some reason, wanted to murder Daunte Wright, and she was so clever, so intelligent in this murder plot, that she decided to call out taser while she knew she was drawing her gun just so she could fire one shot into him and then panic and say, "Oh my God," not an exact quote because there's a swear word in there, "I just shot this person," and the other officers are completely shocked at what she did, is absolutely ridiculous. It has no basis in reality, and if you are forwarding this, you're an insane conspiracy theorist, or you're a race grifter who is trying to make money off of this person's death.
As I watched the video and listened to the officer's commands, it is my belief that the officer had the intention to deploy their taser, but instead shot Mr. Wright with a single bullet. This appears to me, from what I viewed and the officer's reaction and distress immediately after, that this was an accidental discharge.
Now you'll notice that I've had to cut around the body cam footage in relation to this case because YouTube's terms of service doesn't treat videos like mine the same way they would treat a quote-unquote authoritative news source, so I have to follow their guidelines in order to get this video monetized so that this can get out to the majority of people. Also, I want it monetized because I care about money, and people on YouTube who pretend that they don't care about money are lying to you. I'm not a liar. I'm great. Honest. Amazing. Now, with that being said, the myth-making around the Daunte Wright case started immediately after the shooting. People began reporting, despite the fact that the police heavily dispute this and say that they pulled this person over because of expired registration tags, that Daunte Wright was just pulled over for being a black man with air fresheners on his rearview mirror. Now, all of a sudden, the penalty for being black and having air fresheners is the death penalty, and that's horribly racist. They also have been adding in that the officer in this case, who is white, which is the only reason that this is a news story, somehow had some racial animus and she wouldn't have treated a similar person that was white in that same way. There's no basis for this. Again, it's a 1 in a million thing where you accidentally grab for your gun when you meant to grab for your taser. The idea that there was any malice behind that is absolutely ridiculous, but the mythology still persists. Now, as we talked about multiple times on this channel, a person's criminal history is only relevant when that person's criminal history is in fact relevant. Now, for Daunte Wright, his criminal history is relevant because the narrative is he just had air fresheners and that's why he was killed, because he was black and had air fresheners. First of all, he fought the cop, jumped in the car, and was attempting to flee. The reason he was attempting to flee is because he had a felony warrant out against him. And when you examine the felony warrant, what Wright is accused of doing is robbing a woman who let him stay at her house for her rent money by choking her and pointing a gun at her. This was a serious felony warrant, and Daunte Wright actually, if convicted, would have been facing up to 20 years in prison. Now, this has led people on the other side of the situation to overplay their hand as well, because what happens in our culture whenever one of these shootings makes the headlines is people take sides and say, therefore, the shooting was justified. But as previously stated and shown in the body cam footage, Kimberly Porter did not shoot him because of his felony warrant. She didn't shoot him because he was a fleeing felon. She shot him inadvertently when she was attempting to deploy a taser and mistakenly drew her gun. So this does not explain the shooting. This explains why Daunte ran, which led to the shooting. Now, of course, even though it's indisputable that Daunte Wright had a felony arrest warrant against him, and that's the reason why he ran and that led to the situation, certain people on the left are trying to dispute this, but the only way that they can dispute this is by saying that Daunte Wright didn't know that he had the arrest warrant against him, which people have gone out of their way to try to debunk this because this was based on a letter being sent from a different court to his house, but this had no connection at all to the felony arrest warrant. And on top of that, there's no need to debunk this because in the video, they tell him they have a warrant out for his arrest. And unless he thought that he was being kidnapped by people that he pulled over for because he knew that they were the cops, by people dressed like the police, there was no reason for him to run other than the fact that he didn't want to get arrested for that warrant. Again, you can get bogged down on whether or not Daunte knew at the time that he was pulled over that there was a warrant out for his arrest, but there's no reason to debunk that, refute that, dispute that, because he's told, and we hear that on the body cam. He ran because of the warrant. He was shot accidentally. If he didn't run, then they wouldn't have tried to deploy the taser. He would have been in cuffs. He'd still be alive. And if the officer had reached for the appropriate weapon, chances are he would have been alive. Now, there was a chance that he goes down the road, it's a pursuit, he gets killed in the pursuit, or he gets killed doing something else stupid. This guy was not making the best decisions in this situation, but we have 1,000,000 to 1 accident, which was set off, or the lead up to that was Daunte making a mistake. Again, simplest case in the world, no reason to overcomplicate it, no reason to loot and destroy the cities over it.
I think he needs to come out for his shit. He just stand there. He just get 40 for 30.
We all understand what happened, and the police are being transparent. Kimberly has resigned from the police force, and also I think they got the chief to resign from the police force for some odd reason. And maybe there will be criminal charges. Now, the criminal charges are where things might get interesting in this case, because that will be down to this individual department's procedures when it comes to people fleeing in a vehicle. Some police departments believe that it is inherently dangerous to let somebody flee in a vehicle, and thus they have the authorization to use lethal force to prevent them from fleeing in a vehicle. Other police departments believe that it's actually incredibly dangerous to shoot somebody behind the wheel of the car, because then the car could go out of control and cause more damage in that way, and thus they actually ban shooting people while they're driving or in the driver's side seat and moving in a vehicle. So it depends on that. That's whether or not we'll get a negligent homicide or something to that effect. Also, it's gonna be actually more complicated for the officer to defend herself from a negligent homicide charge, even regardless of whether or not in that scenario, had she intended to use deadly force, that would have been permitted because she accidentally drew her gun and it was an accidental discharge. Therefore, even if the force parameters in that situation are in her favor, the law might not be in her favor because her defense from malice in the shooting was that it was an accident, and accidents can often lead to negligent charges. But overall, my assessment of this case is that there is nothing uniquely interesting or compelling or really in dispute if you actually are trying to seek out the facts. I will be linking the body cam footage of this case in the description box of this video in full. Obviously, I had to cut it for terms of service reasons, so definitely check that out if you're interested in seeing that I'm actually 100% right. I'll also link the supporting information, what the cops said about how they pulled him over for the registration, and stuff that we got from Daunte Wright's mother and her assessment of what she believes happened in that scenario. But again, the body cam footage tells the whole tale. It shows Daunte being informed that there's a warrant against him. It shows the handcuffs coming out. It shows him resisting, shows him getting into the car. It shows the officer drawing her weapon and saying taser because she believes that she's about to deploy a taser. And it shows us her reaction after the fact. It's an accidental shooting. The officer is at fault for that mistake, and had Daunte not ran from his warrant, he would not have been in a position to be shot accidentally by this police officer. Really straightforward, really simple, not a lot beyond that. Now, with all that being said, I have an announcement. Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I will be having a debate, conversation, whatever, with this person who thinks that he's going to argue Michael Brown with me, among other ridiculous things. Definitely join in if you want to have a good time. I will be enjoying this event as I will be participating in it, thus making it great. It will be right here on this channel, or maybe on the Twitch channel. I don't even know. There'll be some kind of announcement on my community tab. You just pay attention to that. But that's all I really have for you guys today in terms of this topic. If you like the video, show me by leaving a like. Check out my series that I produced with the Freedom Center and the top 10 racist universities. Linked in the playlist in the description. Support me on the social media links. They're in the description. My support links are also there. This has been the Daunte Wright thing. Really not that interesting of a case. Till next time.